I'm now seeing some journalists saying, what is going on? It makes no sense. But actually, it makes perfect sense if you've been tracking those behind this for the last 30 years, as I have. They are clearly not acting alone. And what is happening? We're seeing that very structure being implemented before our eyes. Why? Because it's not random. None of these events are random. They have been coldly calculated and planned for a very long time. This world is manipulated from the shadows by a global web of secret societies interacting with each other with a common leadership and a common goal. And that goal is the complete subjugation and control 24/7 of the entire global population. And this web, this cult, as I call it, operates like a transnational corporation. It has a headquarters, in its case it's in the shadows, and it has subsidiaries in every country, operate within their sphere of influence, each country. And their job is to impose on their country the centrally dictated global agenda for total human control. So you have the inner circle of the cult at the top of the pyramid. Then you have the military police state imposing the will of the 1%, the cult, upon the rest of the human family all over the world. And that imposition of the tiny few over the very many, it's meant to be imposed control via dependency by the human family upon the 1%. And to achieve that dependency, you have to destroy the independent livelihoods and independent employment of the human population. So they become dependent for survival on the cult-controlled governments. But what's the reason for it? Why are they doing what they're doing? It's to create what I call the Hunger Games society, a global control system that operates within a pyramidal structure. At the top, you've got the inner circle of the cult. Some people call that the 1%. It will do. At the bottom, you have basically the rest of humanity under the control through dependency to survive upon the 1%, the inner circle of the cult. And what is happening? We're seeing that very structure being implemented before our eyes. Why? Because it's not random. None of these events are random. They have been coldly calculated and planned for a very long time. If you are going to create a situation where people are in a situation of dependency to survive upon a tiny few people running through countries and states and governments, their number one necessity, foundation, is to destroy the independent livelihoods of the population through independent businesses and independent employment with those businesses. Because while that independent source of income exists, the few are not going to control the many by dependency. It's to destroy all independent livelihoods and independent employment to make the mass of the world population dependent for survival on the few that control governments. So, what the hell do we do about this? Well, you can try to find a solution to a problem, usually leads to more problems, or we can remove the cause of the problem. And the cause of the problem, what has created all this, is humanity's acquiescence with its own enslavement. Humanity's lack of a backbone to stand up and say no, not having it. Fascists do not impose fascism. There's not enough of them. Fascism is imposed by populations acquiescing to fascism. So people say, what do we do? Well, how about what we don't do? We no longer acquiesce to fascism. And that takes courage, it takes backbone, and it takes unquenchable determination. And we, human family, need that now until it is a tidal wave. There is nothing more important than looking this in the eye and saying, no, not having it. Nothing more important. Oh, what about my kids? Well, okay. So what kind of world are they going to live in? What kind of world do they live in now? What kind of world are they going to live in years, decades from now? Because where we are is where we are. It ain't where we're meant to stay. This is really the time that we need to put aside all the fear and all the anxiety of what will happen if I don't do as I'm told. Well, what will happen if you do as you're told? We are going to end up in a global fascist state beyond anything that Orwell envisaged. And we're standing at that point now. How much longer are people going to ignore it, put their head in the sand, hoping the tornado won't get them? Well, the tornado's coming, and your head's still in the sand. If you lifted it and faced it, you might be able to take avoiding action. But one thing's for sure, if you don't, the tornado's going to have you spinning in the sky, no matter how you try to hide from it. This is the point in human history that we stand. We have the ability still to turn this around by refusing to cooperate with it. And the choices we make now will decide the future of human society as far as the eye can see and the mind can imagine. We are here to stop that happening. The door is closing so fast, and when it does, it's going to be seriously difficult to turn around. But there is a way that we can turn this around, but it's going to take total focus, a backbone of steel, and a refusal under any circumstances to cooperate in any way, shape, or form with our own enslavement. It is to put aside religious differences, racial differences, sexuality differences, they're all illusions anyway, and come together as one human family in mutual support to en masse refuse to acquiesce with not only our enslavement, but the even greater tyrannical imposition on our children and grandchildren. There is nothing more important that we can contribute to our children's future than to head off the nightmare that is coming their way. Let us put aside all the fake fault lines that divide us and come together in unified focus and determination by refusing to cooperate with government impositions. Make those impositions impossible. There are closing in on 8 billion people in this world. You would get them in a single room. That alone shows that we can bring an end to this, but only if we refuse to be divided and ruled down these fault lines of ludicrous, irrelevant, childlike division, and come together in mutual support to focus on what is being planned, indeed is now unfolding by the day, to destroy what's left of human freedom.